Hey, what's up? I was thinking about a question and I'm going to attempt to answer it in this video. So the question I was asking myself was, if you work in an office, do you need to carry a knife? I personally do work in an office and I have for a very long time now. And I only started carrying knives and getting into EDC and preparedness and all that stuff just probably 2 years ago, more or less, something like that. So before that, I never really thought about it, and I guess most people don't. But for those of us who are into it, we feel kind of naked without having some sort of either a dedicated folder on us or perhaps something like a multi-tool or a Swiss Army knife, just some capabilities, and we just like having a blade on us for a multitude of reasons. There are so many reasons really to carry a knife, but the question is, how often are you going to need your knife realistically in an office environment? Are you going to have problems if somebody knows that you have a knife in the office environment, such as human resources, or is it going to scare coworkers, something like that? So then we get into issues of, do we need to, conceal our knives? Certainly I wouldn't recommend having it out on your desk or something like that. And I have made the mistake of doing that before, and it didn't result in any significant problems. It didn't go to HR. It was basically just, a coworker saw it and he was like, oh, what's that? And we had a bit of a discussion. But I could see that he was visibly taken back by it. It's just not something you see every day, right? And in that case, it was a Spyderco Tenacious, which is not a huge knife, but it's like a medium-sized folder. So I quickly learned the lesson that, you don't want to be showing people that you are carrying a knife, especially in a place where it could come back to have repercussions, including your job and your livelihood. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is just, if you feel you must carry in an office, what sort of a blade is appropriate. I've got a few options here on the table that I think are going to be like springboards for this discussion. So, first thing is, okay, say that you're going to be talking about a dedicated folder. What size of a folder is appropriate? Okay, so I've got the Spyderco Military here. 4-inch blade. I actually would not mind EDCing this knife, believe it or not. Despite the fact that it is big, I do like that because it's light. This is not a heavy knife. I think this is around 4 ounces. It's basically like the same weight as a Tenacious, so it's really not that crazily heavy. I don't think it would be that awkward to carry. Maybe if you're like a small person, small hands, or a woman or something like that, it's not for you. And actually, it's probably not for a lot of people because we don't need a blade that's that size every day, right? Most people would probably gravitate towards something like a Flash 1, which is obviously a lot smaller and a lot lighter. Not to mention the fact that it has this deep carry pocket clip. So it's going to disappear inside your pants, and if anybody does see it, this is not going to intimidate anyone. If you look at the blade size of this, it's basically the same as a Swiss Army blade. In fact, it may even be a little bit shorter. No, it's just about the same size. That's what I thought about when I got that, is, wow, that really represents, or, it resembles a Swiss Army knife. It's got the FFG, it's about the same size, it's nice and light. So, I would say if we're talking about dedicated folders, you probably want something leaning towards this side of the spectrum as opposed to this side. So I'll show you some options here that I think would be good for office carry and that I have carried in an office before. Here's another example of a knife that I would not carry in an office. Well, I shouldn't say that, actually. I carried it today. So I'm full of it, but do what I say, don't do what I do. That's the old expression, right? So yeah, this is a heavy knife, big blade. If you whip this out in front of people, there could be repercussions for sure. It could scare the people. So I'm going to say that these are not good options for the average person. For people who love knives and don't mind carrying a bigger blade, yeah, sure, they're cool. But once again, if you show that knife to somebody, one of these things, especially with the camo handle or whatever, it's like, wow, is this guy crazy or what? So, I don't really, I'm not focused or obsessed with what people think of me. I just don't want to lose my job because I was stupidly carrying a knife, right? So, okay, here's another option that I think would be excellent for an office EDC. It's the Skyline by Kershaw. It's a nice light knife. The pocket clip is not as good as the SOG, definitely. It's that sort of bright stonewash finish, you know, people are going to notice that clip, and if they know anything about knives, well, they'll probably say, hey man, that's a cool knife, let me see it. But you know, people might notice it and they might ask you what that is. It just depends on like your work situation and how much spare time people have, because in offices sometimes there's political stuff going on. There's a lot of people who don't really work very much, and they just, you know, they've got all the time in the world to kill and notice things like your haircut and what's that in your pocket and all sorts of other like ridiculous things. So that is something to consider. Okay, I'll show you another one that I think would be really good, is the Delica. I've carried this in an office before, never had a problem. You know, nice and light, you know, same thing with the Kershaw Skyline. I think these knives are basically neck and neck, you know, they're around the same weight. You know, the blade length is comparable. I like the clip a little bit better on the Spyderco because it's blackened. You know, I think actually starting this year you can get the Delica FFG with a black handle and a black clip, so that would disappear nicely inside the pocket. What else? Okay, so of course the Flash 1, we already kind of talked about that. That's like sort of the baby version of this whole spectrum. Okay, what about the Sage series by Spyderco? I think that this is a great office sort of gentleman's folder, you know. It's beautiful with the carbon fiber handle, and that pocket clip, come on, like that, it disappears inside pants. I've worn this with dress pants before, and you know, it's unnoticeable. Really, that actually carrying knives with dress pants sucks. Like, let's get that out of the way first of all. You know, it's not the same as wearing jeans or cargo pants or something like that. You actually feel things in your pocket because the fabric on those pants is so thin that, you know, you want a lighter knife if you're going to carry one at all. But this is super classy. I mean, like, if somebody, you know, showed me this in a meeting, I mean, not threatening me with it or something, but, you know, I said, hey, what's that you're carrying in your pocket? I'm into blades, and somebody pulled that out, I would think that person's cool. You know, and here is the Sage 2. Come on, like titanium, excuse me, that pocket clip, the paper clip there, that's pretty classy if you ask me. So, I mean, and the blades are not like unreasonably long. I think that's like 3 inches or something like that. So, I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody has a problem with knives, it doesn't matter what knife you're carrying, but these are pretty like high class, like, and they're going to bury nicely in the pocket with that great clip there. And, you know, they're not scary knives. So I think those would be great options. I'll show you the Kershaw Zing here just because I have it. Same thing, like this is I think 3 ounces, and okay, the color is kind of bright on this one, so that might be a turn off, and the clip kind of sucks actually, but I don't know, it's a nice light sort of EDC blade, so I mean, depending what you do, it could work. Okay, so then oh, okay, one more, and then I'll move on to something else. But okay, so the SOG Aegis, I forget how you say that, but I think that would be a really good sort of invisible EDC because it is light, because it's deep carry. You know, I think it would be a good choice. And the blade is not like crazily long. I think that's 3 inches as well. So I guess long story short, you want to go with something light, something with a blade length that's not crazy. Like I think 3 inches is probably a good guideline. Maybe something smaller. I forget how big this blade length is. I think it's 2.5 or something like that. So yeah, something light, something small. Okay, so now I'm going to take some of these out here so I can sort of springboard to the next topic. Maybe I'll leave those 3 in there and then take the others away. Okay, so now the question comes is, do you need a dedicated folder at all? So we can bring in some more options here, which I had originally in the video. We've got the Victorinox Swiss Army knife. I forget what this model is called, but I think it is the Camper or the Hiker or something like that, because it does have this folding saw in it. So perhaps this is not the best example of the Swiss Army knife. Like, they do make the Classic, which is a lot smaller. It's just got scissors and a small blade, and I forget what the other thing is in there. Maybe it's like a file or something like that. But that one is super light. Like, that's a keychain knife. And in fact, both these things could go on your keychain. This is kind of awkward actually on the keychain, so I'm not really a fan of that, carrying it that way. That's the one knock actually I have on Swiss Army knives, especially like these full-size ones, It's just, how do you carry it? You know, like, do you drop it in your pocket? I guess you can do that, but on the keychain it sucks, despite the fact that it has this ring. It's just too big. I have here the Leatherman Squirt PS4, and I'll show you the blades too, so you can sort of get a comparison. So okay, these are not, I would actually like compare these, and I probably will in a later video. But I mean, the fact remains that people are not going to be threatened by this. In fact, I believe now you can get on airplanes with blades this size in some places. So these are non-threatening. You know, I've traveled a lot, and Victorinox is one of those things that you're going to always find pretty much everywhere. You know, when I traveled to Mexico, I lived there for 5 months, and I found some like cheap folding knives, like Chinese produced crap like at the markets and stuff like that. But I never found like good quality folders from you know, recognizable manufacturers. What I did find though was Leatherman and Victorinox pretty much, not everywhere. Victorinox was everywhere. Leatherman I found in a couple places, but they're around for sure. So people see these more as tools or sort of like gadgets or something like that. So, you know, they've got scissors and like other things on them, screwdrivers. You know, this guy folds out and becomes pliers. So it's like, clearly that is not a weapon, that is a tool. Yes, it has a knife in it, but you're not gonna hurt anyone with that. And same thing with this. I mean, it's got a bloody corkscrew in it, you know, like what are you gonna do with that? Well, okay, don't ask. Let's not go there. But, you know, the fact remains that if you are unable to go with a dedicated folder for whatever reason, let's take those out of the picture now. If that's not an option, then these perhaps are options. But at the end of the day, what you want to accomplish is, I mean, keeping your job. You know, you don't want to get fired. You don't want to get in trouble and have a black mark on your record with a company, because who knows, maybe you want to spend your career there. You know, maybe you like it there. Lots of people do like their jobs, believe it or not. I'm not going to say one way or the other how I feel, but, you know, it's not worth losing your job over to carry this stuff, for sure. So if you want to err on the side of caution, go with one of these. You know, it will basically give you all of the utility of a folding knife. Yeah, I mean, like a folder is limited, right? It can only do one task. All it can do is cut. These things can do a lot of different things. You know, pliers, corkscrew, scissors, file, screwdrivers, like it's a multi-tool, right? It can do a lot of different things. So I think that perhaps is a good option if you're a little bit on the fence of whether I should carry a folder or not. I hope that was a helpful discussion. I appreciate the views as always. Thank you for watching.